The 91 DVOC logo appears. It's the name of the exhibition in white block text in a black circle with a white outline. The number 91 is a finer font. The letter V in the centre of the logo has two smaller grey V's positioned inside it, one slightly higher than the other. The film starts with a Zoom call showing different people in separate windows. Andrew Mashigo, the creative director of the exhibition, is talking. Andrew is in the top left-hand corner. He has black skin and he's wearing round glasses and headphones, almost like the ones that DJs wear. When he speaks, he uses a lot of hand gestures. In order of appearance, the rest of our film shows Zara Jayne, Clark Reynolds, David Johnson, Rachel Gadsden and Lynn Cox. They're setting up the exhibition. You'll hear Zara describe herself in the film. Clark has white skin and grey hair. He wears dark glasses. David is older. He's tall and slim. He's got a grey beard as well. Rachel's glasses sit on the edge of the mask she's wearing, which hides half of her face. She's white with blondie brown cropped curly hair. Lynn's grey hair is tied in a low ponytail. Her gold top sparkles. In the film, with their assistants, they position artworks and hang pictures on the white walls that frame the U-shaped gallery space. Daylight pours through the floor-to-ceiling glass windows, but fades as the evening draws in for the private view. As much as possible, the audio description is included as the artists talk about their work.
All meeting controls collapsed. Meeting window. Steve Gilburn has joined the meeting.
Hi, Faye.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Clark Reynolds has joined the meeting.
Hi, Clark.
Right.
Hiya.
Zara Jayne has entered the waiting room. Press C and admit.
Where's Zara?
More meeting controls collapsed. David Johnson has joined the meeting.
Can you hear me?
Hi, David. So when the pandemic hit last year, I called Lynn, because Lynn is the co-director of MaMoMi, and I said to her, I'm a bit concerned that with this isolation and the government saying it's lockdown, we might not be able to reach out to the people we actually work with. So very quickly, within a couple of days, we said, you know what, let's set up a Zoom meeting. We'll meet once a week. And we thought Monday was ideal because it's the first day of the week, and that could kind of influence people's week if it was a great meeting. So we were doing Monday, 1 hour from 2 to 3. But very quickly, within 5-6 weeks, the core of the meetings were around creative art. We had 2 people who were not interested in the arts who dropped out because they found it was a bit too arty as a group. And so initially we first thought, okay, we keep the core group going, and then Lynn thought we could set up another arty group. And I thought, you know what, as much as I'd love to do that, having to manage both groups would be too much for me. I can't administer both groups. So we thought, keep it to the one group. And that's what's happened since. And it's just built on and built on since then. And within 5 or 6 months, I said to Lynn, we've got enough work here that we'll be discussing about, that we can actually put together a little event, like a workshop. We didn't think anything grand. But then the second pandemic lockdown hit, and then we had more discussions. And, we thought, you know what, let's just go for it.
Hi, I'm Zara Jayne. I'm a writer, actor, and training to be a director. I am also a podcaster. I'm a white woman with dark brown hair, and at the moment I've got a grey top on, and I'm wearing red-rimmed glasses.
White letters on a black screen. Studio Works, 91 DVOC Exhibition, Gallery at OXO, London, November 2021.
Imagine this. You're at home, sitting on your sofa with a cup of tea. The daily briefing comes on the TV. You see the Prime Minister talking, but you can't hear him. The subtitles go too fast and half the words don't match what he's saying. There is no BSL interpreter. You turn to Twitter. You read other people's comments. This is how you get your news.
I think with Andrew and myself doing the MaMoMi moments, which is what we call our hour a week, our moment sessions, we've got something, I don't know, extra. Probably not where the organisation was going to before the pandemic. But I think one thing I have realised with the pandemic is that we filled in a gap that we didn't realise that was there, but is actually there with or without a pandemic.
We're living in the strangest times in that anyone can remember. But as a disabled artist, everything is really expensive. So everything became online and everything became free. So I built up a great, like a 6 exhibitions portfolio. And then opportunities came out of first lockdown because the creativity was so abundant. People wanted to do creativity.
It's just great to be part of this group because, well, yeah, to be able to sort of share common interests and to not feel quite such a sort of an isolated person as a blind artist. Sometimes you think, why am I doing this? Am I the only person messing around with art in the way that I do? And it's just very comforting and interesting to be, connecting with these other people who do similar things, similar but not the same. It's interesting how we have quite a diverse range of interests within the category of blind art.
I've remained isolated throughout the whole of the pandemic, and actually was isolated in the February. So very quickly my practice had to go from sort of supposedly working internationally in quite a few different countries in 2020 to sort of finding that not only was I not really able to go anywhere, but also I found out just before that I have no antibodies at all. And I didn't really know much about antibodies, and I think most of us didn't until we all realized we need to have COVID antibodies quite quickly to be able to survive. I sort of feel that I'm given this gift from people all over the world. Through their plasma, I get their antibodies. And it's had quite a big effect on me as an artist. And I feel that I have this sort of gold aura that comes to me every Thursday that's sustaining my life and keeping me going. I can't have the vaccinations. I won't build any antibodies. If I get COVID, it's very problematic for me. But obviously, like everybody else, I've got to try and live a normal life.
My art was always about blindness, and that's what I find interesting as far as my research is concerned, because I think art made by a visually impaired person is a different aesthetic, a different way of expressing yourself, and that's what I'm trying to sort of articulate in my research. I'm thrilled every time I make something because of that, bringing an idea, an abstract idea, to fruition and turning abstract into material and physical. I still love that magical process. It seems to me magic anyway. Seeing or feeling or hearing how things take shape. And how they change as well. Your idea is never the outcome is never the same as the original idea.
They're boring. No matter where you look at statistics, they're boring, and you get Chris Whitty coming on. Oh my God, the most boring voice in the world, and that doesn't inspire confidence. So that's why I took that. Well, let's make statistics exciting, visually exciting, and people will want to learn. Like Samuel Pepys' diary for the Great Fire in London. I just did a diary of the COVID pandemic, translated it all into Braille using 1 centimeter coloured card, and it was all stuck on graph paper. So I used the white as the date. And then I used the rainbow colour system to denote the daily death rate. So, for instance, purple was 0 deaths, going up to green, blue, and then blue, green, then yellow, then orange was 401 deaths to 700, and then red was 700 deaths plus. So the idea is just, obviously it took about 8 months to do, and I did a whole year. And because the statistics gave me the pattern, and also I've used black as the cumulative death rate as well. So obviously that increases as you go along. So the pattern was created accidentally because it's all generic. I have no control of the pattern. And it was surprising once I'd done the first panel that it looked like a heartbeat monitor. You know, the little, if you turn it on its side, you had those kind of the peaks and troughs. And that was quite surprising considering what the piece was about. And the whole idea about that piece is, even if you don't know Braille, because we live in a very visual world, you can understand when looking at the piece that the way we use colour in society. So I've used hot colours to donate the highest death rate. So you can physically see the piece and you know where the first wave was and the second wave just by colour. So like the first one piece was, the pattern was accidental. This time, I created the pattern using colour, but in that pattern the piece was called COVID Lingo. So on those 3 panels that I've created, which is 30 centimetres by a metre long high, is COVID Lingo. So I've created, so the build of all the words we've used in the past 18 months, you know, hands, face, space, pingdemic, Dominic Cummings, anything that was mentioned on the news, I wrote down, and I basically translated that into Braille using wooden discs at 1 centimetre. And then when you look at it, it looks like hazard tape. You can touch the work because it's all Braille. But the idea is I've painted 3 canvases, and each canvas is painted. One is black, one is yellow, and one is black. So the idea is when they're actually presented, they will be juxtaposition. So the idea is they would be offset by a good 50 centimeters each time. So when you look at it, it looks like hazard tape on the wall. So there's hazard tape within hazard tape, and in that hazard tape are words to do with the pandemic.
The piece is called Touch Me Not, and it's subtitled A Pair of Pear-Shaped Pears. With, you know, a little bit of fun using sort of play on the word pair as in a couple and pear as in the fruit. So what it is 2 enormous pears, the fruit pears, and these pears are about 6 feet tall in height and about just under 1 meter wide at the widest point. And they're based on an actual conference pear that I just bought from the market, and we 3D. Well, we scanned the real pear, just a small pear, and then 3D printed it and at actual size. So it's quite a small 3D print of a real pear. And then we thought, well, it'd be interesting to sort of upscale this pear to a larger pear. So we blew it up. This is all digital, about 1,000 times. So it's now this is now, as I say, about 6 feet tall from top to bottom, and we cut it using clever CNC cutting machinery out of expanded polystyrene blocks. It struck me as I was thinking about it that I didn't actually touch this piece until quite a long way into its making process, because it was all done digitally and remotely because of COVID. The technicians at college started it off for me, and they got it to quite an advanced stage in its process before I actually laid hands on it.
Then there was this, you know, you've got to be 2 meters apart. You've got to be socially distanced. You've got to be 6 foot apart. You've got to be socially distanced. You've got to be 1 meter apart. You know, unless you can manage the
Alert
2
from calendar.
meters.
Look at website with Olivia.
Sorry.
Look at website with Olivia. Close. Press application.
And there was loads and loads of different information coming out. I was hearing from lots of visually impaired people that they were getting told off because they weren't following the arrows that were on the floor in supermarkets and other shops. And I just thought this social distancing is a nightmare. It's a nightmare for all visually impaired people. I thought this is a real issue. And I thought, oh, what I need, jokingly in my head, is like a 2 meter wide skirt that goes out from my waist to show me what 2 meters is like. And then I thought, oh yeah, but then you wouldn't get down any of the pavements because the pavements aren't 4 meters plus wide. There's all this street furniture, another issue for visually impaired people. And I thought, oh, you know, it could be a real nightmare, you know, and then I thought, well, it could be quite a good fun piece. The skirt is made of copper wire. I tend to use a lot of copper wire in my artwork, and it's got white canes involved in it. And I'm trying to work out whether I'm going to put some light wooden beads on it to represent Braille. It might depend on the weight of the skirt and how easy I can move in it, but it would be things like isolation, social distance, you know, words around the pandemic that would be on it. And the skirt is going to be made in 8 sections. So from the waist, 8 sections going down to the floor. And they're going to be almost like petals that touch the floor. So it's going to be like a scoop skirt. So it's going to look like a really exaggerated, old-fashioned kind of skirt, but it goes out 2 meters at the back, front, sides, everywhere.
So I have met some people, some of the gang briefly, but other than for so long, other than some people like Faye and David, I haven't met them in person. It's all been through Zoom. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the expedition. Where did that come from? Exhibition, because then I finally get to meet everyone in person, like in the flesh. It'll be so weird, but so cool at the same time.
The 2 pairs will be just not touching. There'll be a tiny gap between them. That's quite an important aspect of them. It's about just not touching with each other. But you will be able to touch them. You're welcome to touch them, and I hope people will touch them. So the whole piece really is a reflection on the experience of touching and not touching, and how that has been quite an important part of mine and everyone else's experience in the COVID pandemic.
My work is there to be touched, you know, everything I do, you know, and I trust the people that are going to exhibitions to, if they're allowed to touch things, they're doing it in such a delicate way, because we're, you know, the idea of, oh, you know, even if you bring children along, you know, the idea of you're teaching them to interact with art in a new way.
Credits read: Artists: Lynn Cox, Rachel Gadsden, Zoe Partington, Zara Jayne, Clark Reynolds, Faye Kilburn, David Johnson, J.G. Martin, Kate Portal, with contributions from Justin MacLeod, Andre Louis. Collaborators: Anne Hornsby, audio description, Kate Dangerfield, film, Gabby Sepperlight and Chiara Romualdi, dancers. Partners: Touch Graphics Europe, Spain, interpretation panels, Subpack, tactile audio system, Beyond Vision International, Hong Kong, symposium, Wuja, haptic sound device, Illuminate Me, innovation and creative ideas hub, Montravi Visuals, video editors, Julia Stubbs, web design, Andrew Mashigo, creative director, Lydia Reid, administrative support, supported by Arts Council England, www.mamomiinitiative.com, followed by the MaMoMi logo, then the Arts Council England logo.